Welcome to the Oshner Andrews Sports Medicine Podcast Institute podcast studio here on Veterans Memorial Boulevard. You're watching another episode of NewOrleans.Football presented by PJ's Coffee. And if you are in the market for a new car, check out my guy Matt Bowers at one of his many dealerships throughout the region. He will get you right with the best customer care, the best car buying experience you can have, and the best prices all the time. Make sure you go check out Matt at one of his many dealerships, especially the Ford one right next door behind us. You see the guys out there working hard now, making sales, doing their thing, so make sure you go check them out. All right, we got a great show for you guys today. We're going to break down this Broncos game, what it means, what the Saints can do, the depleted Saints, can they overcome it, what Spencer Rattler is going to look like again this week in his second start, and what matchups matter the most. We're also going to break down Mickey Loomis's comments on the state of the Saints, so make sure you stick around for all that and so much more. Oshner Hospital for Orthopedics and Sports Medicine on Clearview Parkway is celebrating 5 years of exceptional achievements. The hospital's integrated team has successfully performed over 20,000 surgeries using the latest in cutting-edge technology. With nationally recognized services and impactful partnerships, they continue to lead the advancement of orthopedic and sports medicine care in our region.
Rouse's Markets is voted best grocery store in New Orleans, best grocery store in Baton Rouge, Mississippi, Gulf Coast, Thibodaux, Houma, Hammond, Lake Charles, Mobile, year after year. Thank you for choosing us best grocery store on the Gulf Coast. Number one. Thank you.
Thank you.
The number one grocery store
In Mississippi, Alabama,
Louisiana. 1 million customers a week can't be wrong. Welcome to Rouse's.
The NewOrleans.Football show is proudly presented by PJ's Coffee. PJ's Coffee has some of the best drinks that you can find. They have locations all over the city. They have pastries and everything else you need to get your day started. So go check them out. NewOrleans.Football is proudly sponsored by Urban South Brewery, the makers of Paradise Park Lager. I love supporting local breweries, and when looking for a refreshing, easy drinking beer, I always recommend Paradise Park. In fact, I think it might be the best game day beer out there. If you want something a little lighter, try Paradise Light. It's everything I love about Paradise Park with just 96 calories and 2.6 carbs. And if you're looking for a family-friendly place to watch the game, I'd recommend Urban South's Tap Room in the Lower Garden District. They've got 15 TVs, 30 unique beers on tap, and mouth-watering urban smash burgers. The whole family will want to make Urban South their new living room, because at Urban South, they take laid back seriously. Looking for the best insurance coverage at the lowest price? Look no further than Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency. They are a local independent insurance agency right here in New Orleans, specializing in home, flood, and auto insurance. Their agents are born and raised in the area and understand our community's unique needs and the homeowners insurance crisis our residents are currently in. At Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency, their dedicated team will shop every available carrier in the market, ensuring you get the most comprehensive coverage at the lowest possible price. They know your time is valuable, which is why they work diligently to provide you with the quotes as soon as possible. Why settle for less when you can have the best? Trust Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency, to protect what matters most to you. I do. I've been a client of theirs since 2021. When we couldn't find someone to insure our house because of the big oak tree growing over top, Chabert worked until they found someone that would work with us and give us the protection that we need to feel safe in our new home. Call them today at 504-326-6526 or visit them online at Protected by Chabert. That's 504-326-6526. Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency, your local insurance experts. Hardhide Ponchatoula Strawberry Whiskey is an 86 proof blend of aged wheat bourbon, American light whiskey, and fresh Ponchatoula strawberries. Blended in New Orleans, it is not for the thin-skinned. Look for it in your favorite stores, bars, and restaurants. NewOrleans.Football is proud to be sponsored by Firehouse Subs. Make sure you check out their location on Veterans Boulevard. Attention Saints fans, don't let pests and termites invade your home field. Trust the team at Red Pest Solutions to tackle those unwelcome visitors. Call the Red Man today for unbeatable pest and termite control. Score peace with no pest. Visit redpest.com, REDDPEST.com. All right, let's get into the show. Welcome back to the Oshner Andrews Sports Medicine Institute podcast studio up here on Veterans Memorial Boulevard. You're watching another episode of NewOrleans.Football presented by PJ's Coffee. Get every day started with PJ's and you will get your day going. Mike, Oh, first of all, two YouTube comments. Brandon is running the show. He's in the director's chair. Normally over here, our guy E's out having a baby right now, so B moved over to that chair because he's a big team little me guy. So he's doing what he's got to do to keep the show running. So B's
What are the
back there
YouTube
doing his thing.
comments? I miss Brandon. I hate just hearing Mike and Nick.
No,
talk.
they're asking where Brandon was at. So gotta let him know. Gotta let him know. Should be saying that every time. People are used to seeing him, so they need to know where he's at when he's not sitting here. But yeah, Broncos coming to town a day from now, Thursday night. Sean Payton comes back. 2-4 Saints, banged up Saints. A lot of stuff to get into in this game. I think at the top of the list, and this is presented by Aaron Rose. Biggest issue for the Saints, obviously, I think it's not Spencer Rattler. It's not even the injuries, because those things are all happening. They're all inevitable. Whatever the injury impact's going to be for Rattler in the offense, you cannot change it. But the defense can change their fate. They can play better. They can tackle better. What do you think they need to do to regain their identity and get back to being what a Dennis Allen defense is supposed to be on Thursday night, by Thursday night, so that offense can have a chance?
I haven't found any optimism in the last 2 days. 24-hour rule, 48-hour rule. I'm just really disheartened by what we saw by the Saints defense because I think it's a culmination of how they've been slowly deteriorating for the last couple of years to where they're not that special anymore, where they're average, where they're capable of being really good sometimes, but dipping other times. I mean, they've got a bad run defense. It's a fact. Like, it's been too many years to not say they don't have a bad run defense. They've got a mediocre pass rush. I think that's a fact. They can't finish tackling anybody.
Mediocre. I think mediocre is a generous label.
Okay. I don't know if I'm all the way to bad, but yeah, ineffective. Certainly ineffective. I think they've got a great secondary. I think they've got good linebackers that are better when Pete Werner's in there. But this is what the Saints were leaning on. This was the whole hope of the season was hopefully they can get healthy. Eric McCoy can eventually come back. Cesar Ruiz can eventually come back. Derek Carr can eventually come back. They'll have their line back. We'll get to see Clint Kubiak come up with some plans. But all of that was while leaning on the defense. And if the defense is 32nd in the NFL right now, I don't believe they're that bad. But do we ever expect this defense to be a top 10 defense? I think it's a little Pollyannish to believe that this defense could be a top 10 defense again. I'm really disturbed by it. Now, I think they've got a lot of pride. I think they've got talented guys. I think they got veteran leaders. We just talked to Demario Davis. I think they're going to give everything they have to come out and give a gallant performance. I think they have a chance to win this game because I think you could win this game. Just the degree of difficulty is not that high with these two opponents. But I do think the secondary is special, and they get to disguise things against the young quarterback. But I'm very concerned that we've sort of seen the end of this being an elite defense permanently.
So top 10, I think they can get back there. In terms of points, yards, I don't know, whatever. Yards are kind of
sure.
I saw the Patriots go to a Super Bowl allowing the most yards in the league one year. So, but it was about points. They played great bend but don't break defense, and they got there. But yeah, I think if we made a line of demarcation right now and just kind of started from Thursday night forward and saw where the Saints going to rank in points, and if you told me they were top 10, it wouldn't shock me. They're allowing 24.5 to get to 10. You got to be at 20. It's a 4-point difference there. But the reason I say that isn't necessarily all because of them. It's because Denver, Los Angeles, Carolina, Atlanta, Cleveland, Rams, Giants, Commanders, Packers, Raiders, Bucks. Like, it's not a murderer's row of teams. There's some games in there where if you can get back to tackling and playing good red zone defense and that's it on its own, you could probably get that number to where you feel okay about it. But there's no doubt about it. They have not been good to this point. The tackling thing is really, really bizarre to me. In the sense that it isn't even just like a couple guys. Like it became the whole team like all at once. Like, why does it become the whole team all at once? And I saw some people pointing out number of plays, time of possession, all that. Like, well, get off the field on third down, and you kind of help yourself with that a little bit. Make them plays
players
on third
were saying
down.
that. I mean, that's a great point. Like being on the field for 40 minutes against the Chiefs, 34 minutes against the Bucks does take its toll. But they're not saying they're saying we're the reason we're on the field because we weren't getting off the field.
34 is not even that crazy. That's 4 minutes more than half the game. Like, so if you're
but when you
50,
did 40 on Monday night and 34 on the following Sunday,
I'll give you that.
It does add up.
I'll give you that. But play better. Like, don't play better early in the game. Get off the field. Don't allow them to go down the field and score on the opening drive. I mean, There's things you can do to control that. So yeah, maybe late in the game, like the complete collapse is just exhaustion versus, that can also be interpreted as like, are they playing hard? But like maybe they were just so worn out that they just got so worn out by that point. It looks like that, which I can accept that as a reason. When you're watching it live on just like, oh my God, like, what's happening here?
Yeah.
Why do they look so lifeless? Maybe they were just completely worn out by that point, and I can accept it. But to your point, yeah, I don't think they're maybe top tier like the way they used to be. I don't see the path to getting back there, but it's not. I don't think it's a DA problem in and of itself. I don't think it's that he forgot how to coach defense. I don't think it's that the players don't respond to him. The tackling is bad. That's on him. He's got to fix it. Figure that out. The pass rush being terrible, I can't put that all on him. I think that goes back to Sean Payton falling in love with Davenport and trading 2 picks for him and then missing on that. I think that goes back to the Sean Payton regime drafting Peyton Turner and then that not working. DA in this regime drafting Foskey and that not working. I think those are issues within it. I think you got really old. Up the middle of the defense. So you take Pete Werner out with an injury. I think that's impactful.
Yeah, of course.
Willie Gay missed a few tackles in this game. Pete Werner beat him out handily enough that he got an extension before camp was even over. I think that's a big hit. I think taking Tyron out at the end of the game is a big hit. There was a play where one of them where they scored where it's Abram and JT Gray missing tackles. I mean, that's not how it was designed. So
DeMarco Jackson's missed tackle was the worst one. He shouldn't be on the field.
And it's not
Anthony Orji had a bad missed one. He shouldn't be on the field.
And those aren't excuses. Like, you should have better depth too. Like, you haven't built good enough depth. And I think that's a huge issue with the team. And I think that's a drafting issue as well, though. Like, when you're going, okay, we're going to handpick this person. We're going to move up for him. We're going to sacrifice picks. You got to have depth coming from the draft, cheap depth from the draft, cheap depth from finding league minimum players in free agency. They've done it on the left, but on the right, the draft stuff, like, you aren't pumping in enough talent. Like, it's just so paper thin everywhere across the board except cornerback that it's like if somebody gets hurt, like, all of a sudden you're just absolutely screwed. And it's just, I don't know. Like, I just think the construction of the team is really a bigger problem than anything here. I think at the top, they're talented. If everybody's on the field, they are good enough. They are a team that can win 9-10 games. But you start chopping away at that, and then all of a sudden, like, you're just, there's nothing there. But that pass rush is terrible. I think they need to blitz more. I think that's something they need to do. They figured that out last year. That's a DA thing. The tackling is a DA thing. I do think that they can figure some of the stuff out and get better if the team is succeeding enough for people to be bought into the process of doing it. So I think you got to find ways to win. Otherwise, like, I don't know. I don't know what it becomes, but, this is a long way of saying that. Like, I regardless of what you feel about everything else, like, I still believe that he is a good defensive coach, and whatever's plaguing him, if the team is like staying bought in, and right now all signs say they are still, I think you find your way out of this.
Yeah, so much there. But that all adds up to 594 yards, the second most they've allowed in franchise history. Yeah. 277 rushing yards. We've never seen that.
It's a lot of issues is really basically what I was saying.
Yeah,
it
takes a lot to pile up on that. So a few things. The missed tackling thing, I think that can be potentially a blip on the radar, especially if you get some starters back. It's too weird. I mean, you don't just become the worst tackling team in the NFL. That's weird to me. Did they give up? Did they quit? That's kind of weird to me too, because when I went back and I dissected like the 4 or 5 worst plays, none of them were even after they were losing. Like the Godwin play, they were leading at the time. Yeah. The Sean Tucker run, that's his name, right? Sean Tucker, that where he bounced off 5 different guys. Yep. They were only down by 4 early in the fourth quarter with a game that could have been won. That's not, we've quit. They weren't down 51-27 when those plays were happening. At the end
of the game, though, they did look lifeless.
At the end. But I'm saying
not
not
on the missed tackle plays, yeah.
So it'd be weird to quit when you're leading the game or only down by 4 early in the fourth quarter. I think they were just bad. And look, I totally understand anyone wanting to blame Dennis Allen for using the word execution. Execution is a nasty code word. Execution means wasn't our fault, it was their fault. They're the ones executing our plan. But Demario Davis had a long, and I'm actually going to type it up and put it on the website today. Demario Davis said it's all about execution. He said, this scheme has proven to work. We've proven it time and time again. You would have thought it was a coach saying it, but it was Demario Davis saying it. He goes, there's nothing wrong with the scheme. There's nothing wrong with the plan. We didn't execute. That's what it came down to. Rings a little more true when it's coming from him.
Just a quick interjection, though. Like, in fairness to DA, there were a lot of comments about, if I'm not coaching it right, I need to coach it right. They aren't executing it. I need to do it better so they can execute it. Maybe I got to think about how I'm communicating. It wasn't like execution
it wasn't
and nothing
totally
else. Yeah, to be fair. Just to be fair.
Of course. And he made sure to say that. And I wrote that up on Monday. You can read all the highlights of his conversation. He wasn't just putting on players. But what I'm saying is it's okay for that to be a true fact, that the execution was terrible in this game. The execution was terrible in this game. That can be a fact. Now, what I will pin on Dennis Allen, though, is he also said, look at my track record. And he has a great track record. And there were a lot of years in 17, 18, 19, 20 where they got over a blip and then they were dominant. But in all those years, they had a top 3 run defense in the NFL. Frankly, right now, they might have a bottom 10 run defense.
I don't give a damn.
If you don't have a good run defense, you can't stop anything.
Yeah, I don't the track record makes me believe, okay, you can figure this out. But I don't give a damn about your track record if you got the worst defense in the league right now. And you do in terms of yards. That's not good enough. It has to be better. Like, it's a bottom line business. You got to figure it out. There was a couple things in this game that, and look, I might just be an idiot or whatever, but like, I absolutely hated the call, the third down. They played like a zone defense on third down, on one third down, and it was like they conceded the first down on it, and like that was really weird to me. It worked, but like, I don't know. It was still weird to me that on that opening drive, having Marshawn on Evans seemed to be the difference, and that's kind of something that's worked every single time. It ended up working ultimately overall, but like, I don't know. Godwin still got his yards and everything. I don't know if I necessarily love that. In the lack of pass rush, if you don't have it, you gotta manufacture it somehow. You gotta like start bringing more people somehow. Like, I don't know what it is, and this was the same story last year. It started out this way, and then second half of the season, it was like, well, we better start blitzing, and they did, and their defense got better. Like, you might have to start doing that.
It wasn't even the second half. It was like, what, week 11, week 12? Like, it took a long time.
Yeah. I don't love everything they're doing. If he is terrible against Denver, Los Angeles, Carolina, like, and there's no turnaround, I'll be there on the, okay, this is completely lost. 17, they started out terrible. They found their way to it. The Malcolm Jenkins year, they started out terrible. They found their way to it. Like, we've seen kind of this before. I'm willing to give it a couple more weeks, but it's definitely on the radar of this might, like, if this goes bad, that's the thing that that's when you start, all right, like, is this working? But I'm not ready to go there just yet. This might just be a couple of really bad weeks. Like, they gave up 15 points to Philly. Atlanta game wasn't. So it's been
they heading into this game, they had allowed one touchdown pass all year.
Yeah.
One.
And my other thing on Dia that I would put on him, I don't think they started either one of these games good enough. Like, there was a slow start against Kansas City. Almost looked like they weren't ready for it.
Yeah.
Tampa Bay, it looked like they weren't ready for it. So those are two things that I'm going to put on him as well. But we're going to see how it turns around and if they can get there. But they're definitely going to have to find a way to get there, which leads us into our next topic, presented by Rouse's, the official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. How can Spencer Rattler build on his start last week? He was 28-24, 243 yards, touchdown, and
what did
2
you
picks.
just said? 20 of 24.
22 of 40, 243 yards, a touchdown, and 2 picks.
Yeah. First of all, I loved what I saw from Spencer Rattler early in the game. There's very few things that have played out exactly as expected, as much as Spencer Rattler at the beginning of that game. The not too big for him concept, the poise, the comfort, the 24-yard pass on the first play of the game, the rollouts, the moving well, the throwing on the run, the scrambling. He was doing all of that early. The concern, obviously, is Tampa Bay saw that. Tampa Bay came up with an adjustment and then completely shut him down because there weren't enough tricks left in the bag, and that's a whole Saints offense issue. They can't run. If they now, the exact same thing I said about the defense. This offense can't run the ball right now, not behind that offensive line. We haven't seen them be able to run the ball the last 2 weeks. You just run out of tricks at a certain point. So I don't think Rattler is the problem, but I think this offense is super anemic. Denver blitzes the second most of any team in the NFL. I think they're second in the NFL in sacks this year. They don't have Patrick Surtain. It doesn't look like they're going to have Pat Surtain in this game, one of the best corners in the NFL, so that should help. But they bring interior pressure, they blitz. It's going to be hard for him, but I don't think he's going to be the reason they lose, and I think he gives them a fighting chance. I was kind of encouraged. That first game kind of went about as expected. It wasn't higher than I expected. It wasn't lower than I expected, and I'm not scared to put him out on the field. I think you can win a game with it.
For me, it went a little better than expected because he made me forget that there were issues for a half.
For a half,
yeah. And the fact that he could do that for a half, I think how it looked in the second half is probably how it should have looked the whole game. Like, he really kind of overcame some, like, real systemic issues, and I felt pretty good about the game overall. I mean, obviously, there's some stuff that I think he's going to look back at, and he has looked back at, and he probably thought, boy, I could have done this better. I should have seen this guy. Or, the pick was both of them were a little tough for me, especially the second one, not seeing the safety. The first one, it was tough for me because if you look at it, like, if that throws a little bit better, I think Shaheed probably scores a touchdown on it. Like, there's definitely a chance for it. There was a lot of space going out to the sideline. But I thought he played pretty good overall. I felt good about his decisions. There were a couple plays where I felt like it was a little bit slow. There were a couple plays where I felt like he was, like, really on rhythm and ahead. Like, so stuff that he's going to look at, learn from, get better from, and we'll see how it comes back out here and they do against it. I'm interested to see, too, what the adjustment is to him, because now people have seen him. They kind of know at least a little bit of what he wants to do. So now you can kind of game plan for him a little bit off these 40 passes, and, we'll see how that looks. I would say everything in this game was set up against him. Yeah. Spencer Rattler shouldn't have to throw 40 passes in a game, and if he does, you're really in trouble. So that kind of really ties into the first topic. If the defense plays better, I think Rattler plays better. Putting too much on him is a recipe for disaster. I doubt they're going to run the ball much better until they start getting offensive linemen back. So really, it's going to be on playing defense, and I don't know how effective everything's going to be if they aren't running the ball well. Maybe Kendre Miller helps with that a little bit this week. Maybe you get a little bit going. You have to find something there, though, I think, to help him a little bit. Otherwise, I don't see how it gets significantly better from last week. He needs support. He's a rookie. First start, going to be the second start. Same thing, for anybody in the system, I think.
I also maybe at some point I'm just, like, denying what's in front of me, but I think Clint Kubiak's a smart guy, and I think he's going to also learn from what doesn't work and have some good plans too. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they've got. It's a little unfortunate that it's on a short week, but I'm curious to see what their next chess move is after they saw how the defense adjusts.
I'll say this, this might be incredibly unfair given how decimated they are across the board, but I want to see him adjust to somebody's adjustments. It seems like every time somebody adjusts to him, like, it kind of gets shut down a little bit, and it's just, okay, so you're going to start out doing something, they're going to adjust you. What is your counter punch to that? And I don't know that we've necessarily seen that quite to this point. And this is a good defensive coordinator again this week. So it's so unfair. It's so unfair. I say that, like, I know
it's fair. It's fair. You want to see it because we haven't seen it yet.
Maybe he can't because he doesn't have the pieces. Yeah. Like, it's just so unfair. Like, maybe he's given his best shot, and when you're down this many guys, there's only so much you can do. But it's something. It's just, I don't know. It's just so hard to evaluate the offense right now, which takes us into our next topic presented by Urban South. The Saints have a very, very extensive injury report. It's Tuesday right now, or Wednesday, as we're doing this before Wednesday's practice. Final statuses will come out later today. Cesar Ruiz did not practice. Derek Carr did not practice. Lucas Patrick upgraded to limited. Pete Werner did not practice. Shaheed did not practice. Don't expect to see him for a few weeks. Chris Olave didn't practice. Probably will not be out there on Thursday night unless there's a drastic turnaround here. Taysom Hill, limited. Peyton Turner, limited. Alvin, limited. Carl Granderson, full. Nathan Shepard, limited. JT Gray, limited. Alontae Taylor, limited. Cedric Wilson, limited. Tyron, Willie Gay, Bub Means, all full participants. I'm guessing we're going to see Ruiz rolled out, obviously. Carr rolled out, obviously. Pete Werner, I don't know. He was in the locker room walking around. Maybe there's a fighting chance. We're going to find out. Shaheed, I think, is going to be rolled out today. I think Chris Olave will be rolled out today. I think Taysom Hill will probably be listed as questionable. So, yeah, I mean, there's going to be some big ones going into this game for sure.
I don't have super high hopes for Taysom Hill or Lucas Patrick. I do think it's possible, but such a short week. It could be that they're finally ready to go next week against the Chargers, but maybe one of them comes back. But look, I mean, taking away Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave, we were talking heading into the last game about how we've never seen injuries to this level before. And now you're taking away 2 of the 8 best players on the team and taking them out too. I mean, it's unbelievable. Now, Pat Surtain is on that list too. Best player on the Broncos, best player for either team in this game, like a top 20 player in the NFL who's playing like the leading contender for Defensive Player of the Year this season. So that evens the playing field a tiny bit when you take their best corner away and the Saints' best receivers away. But I mean, we were watching practice yesterday with Mason Tipton and Bub Means and Equinemius St. Brown and Cedric Wilson, and that's not an NFL group of receivers. And it's, I mean, how much more difficult can the circumstances get?
I mean, it'll be a comfortable homecoming for Sean Payton if there aren't good receivers on the field. So like that's something that, welcome back.
Oh man. Wait, who does he have? I should have looked at this before I just blurted it out, but he's got Lil Jordan Humphrey. He no longer has Traquan Smith. He has Lucas Kroll. He has A.T. Perry.
Cortland Sutton.
I know, but I'm saying which
Devon Valet or however you say it. Like
he used to have Marquez Callaway, moved on from him.
Yeah. It's a really tough. It's a really tough list of guys. I think the receivers you just said. Yeah, I would expect St. Brown to get elevated this week. I mean, he kind of has to field the team.
Pettis, Dante Pettis, who might be their punt returner.
Yeah, I think that's probably more about the punt. I guess he was a really good punt returner in college. Rizzy does do a good job of kind of finding those guys. So if that's the one, I'm intrigued. They got Jermaine Jackson as another option, possibly as a punt returner. There's some guys on the team too. I don't know. Lucas Patrick, maybe. I don't think there's any chance Taysom plays. I think zero. I think absolutely zero chance he plays this week. I don't see it. If he was even close, he would be out of practice more. They might roll him out there today just for a bluff, but I don't see any. I think that's a Chargers thing. I don't see any scenario where he's on the field.
No Taysom Hill versus Sean Payton is the biggest disappointment of my 2024 season.
I think I don't know. I'm just guessing, but I just don't. I don't see any signs that suggest he's going to play.
I assume the limited means we didn't see him at practice yesterday, but I assume limited means he did walk through. So he's probably walking through the play. I mean, that signifies they might be giving him a chance, but yeah, tough to say anything other.
I'll take the hard under on playing or not playing. Not a good report. Really bad. I don't know how they overcome it. I don't know if they can overcome it. They're not a good football team right now, and they're decimated. They aren't playing good. Their defense isn't playing good. They don't have healthy players. I don't know. We're going to find out on Thursday night. We'll be right back after this quick word from our sponsors. Total Maintenance is one of the largest locally owned home and commercial service providers in South Louisiana. They were founded in 1980 and serve the greater New Orleans and Baton Rouge markets. And Total Maintenance wants to show some love to our NOF listeners. They have a membership program that gets you 2 tune-up visits for AC and heating, as well as club membership discounts of 15% on all repairs, half off of all diagnostic charges, and 3-year warranties on most repairs for membership clients. This is usually priced at the low price of $24.95 a month per system, but if you tell Total Maintenance that you found them through NOF, they'll lower the price to $20.95 per month per system for as long as you keep the membership active. It will never increase. Total Maintenance has a tune-up special running this summer for $79, down from the normal price of $179. This is a one-time offer for one system only. They also offer a free diagnostic on second opinions on units deemed to be unrepairable, and they offer free estimates for replacements as well as commercial maintenance programs. Services include AC and heating service and replacement, electrical service, plumbing service, as well as generator service and installation. They are Total Maintenance. Find them at tm-ac.com or give them a call at 504-841-3300, or if you're in the Baton Rouge area, 225-480-1000. Martin Wine and Spirits is home to a selection of hand-picked barrel select bourbon, whiskeys, and much, much more. They are family owned and operated since 1946 and specialize in wine, spirits, gourmet food, gift baskets, catering, and tasting events. They have many locations, so they're never too far away. You can check them out in Metairie, New Orleans, Mandeville, and Baton Rouge, or if it's more convenient, you can always shop online. Whether you're a wine novice or a seasoned collector, you'll enjoy the Martin Wine and Spirit experience.
Score big with Saints Score. Win up to $100,000. Enter the second chance drawings for cool Saints prize packages. Play Saints Score scratch-offs from the lottery.
All right, guys, it's the best time of year. Football's back. We're talking NFL Sundays, college football Saturdays, and the glorious grind of fantasy football lineups. This is where your inner GM comes alive. Setting the perfect fantasy roster, screaming at your TV, and making last-minute waiver moves that either make you a hero or the guy everyone ridicules in the group chat. But listen, while you're over here making sure your fantasy team is dialed in, don't let your personal grooming become the guy that gets left on the bench. Let's be honest, nobody wants to fumble their grooming routine. That's where Manscaped's Performance Package 5.0 Ultra comes in, acting as your all-in-one grooming playbook. From keeping things sharp down below with the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra to taking care of those rogue nose and ear hairs with the Weed Whacker 2.0. This is the lineup that'll keep you looking and feeling like a champ on and off the field. Join the 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped and get ready for kickoff by heading over to manscaped.com. Use the code New Orleans, that's one word, for 20% off and free shipping. Trust me, you'll be drafting the real MVP of grooming this season.
There's nothing quite like the feeling of stepping into your dream home. At Jefferson Financial Federal Credit Union, we can help make that dream a reality with a team dedicated to you. When you partner with Jefferson Financial, you do so for the life of the loan. Having a single point of contact when questions arise is invaluable. Our experts are here to guide you every step of the way. There's no better time to invest in your future. Apply online at jeffersonfinancial.org. Federally insured by NCUA, Equal Housing Lender.
Whether you are a local New Orleanian or a fan in town for the game, get your pre- and post-game fired up at Aaron Rose. Local chaos and local love for the black and gold. Wake up and live with daily drink specials, mimosas, screwdrivers, Bloody Marys, and hot or frozen Irish coffees, all just $3 or $4 between 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Aaron Rose, half a block from Bourbon Street in the French Quarter, 811 Conti Street.
Welcome to the Queen Casino, the crown jewel of entertainment destinations. From the thrill of gaming, where every spin and deal brings you closer to fortune, to the excitement of sports betting, where you can feel the rush of victory. Our spaces and catering menu are perfect for any event. From business meetings to grand celebrations, immerse yourself in our vibrant atmosphere with live music that keeps the party going all night long. Join us at the Queen Casino. Your royal adventure awaits.
All right, welcome back to the Oshner Andrews Sports Medicine Podcast Studio. If you have healthcare needs, go check out Oshner. They got you covered on everything you need, and they'll get you right after the injury. The prevention has not been good at the Saints, but if you get injured, that is not Oshner's field. They're just there to help you get patched up if you choose to go to see them. So yeah, we're moving on into our next topic, the lottery question of the week presented by the Louisiana Lottery. Fantasy time. No Chris Olave, no Rashid Shaheed, probably no Taysom Hill. Alvin Kamara's got a lot of injuries. There's no offensive lineman on the field. Are you playing any skill position players this week?
I mean, Alvin, yeah, but Bud Means,
Maybe
8 targets, 5 catches, touchdown, rapport with Spencer Rattler.
Someone's got to catch it.
He came in like he had 1 target in the first 5 weeks, and then he gets 8 targets, 5 catches, and a touchdown. At fantastic toe tapping. Like I wrote about this in my story on Spencer Rattler today, the improvisation. And then when you go and watch, how smart Means was to run his route, to keep it alive, to drag the corner back inside and then run back to the outside in front of Rattler's face. Like that showed some savvy. They have a good connection. I mean, I wouldn't start him with confidence, but it's pretty amazing how Cedric Wilson and Mason Tipton have gotten chance after chance after chance this season and done nothing with it. And then Bud Means got a chance, and he really took advantage of it. So he's the one guy I would at least consider.
I picked up Kendre in every league, and
all right, fair.
They don't believe in him. I do. I know what I saw last year. I know what I saw last year. I don't know. Maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe they'll never give him a real chance. I know what I saw last year. I saw a talented player. I saw somebody that can really run the ball. I saw somebody that can do stuff in the passing game. I don't understand fully why they dislike him so much. I mean, Kubiak has made it clear multiple times about how much he values practice. He didn't practice, so it really might just be that he hasn't seen it enough. He said it, I don't believe in gamers. That kind of felt like, a message to everybody. It almost, I'm attaching it to somebody, but it felt like an A.T. Perry comment, honestly. And he said yesterday something about, how much I value practice. Like, he hasn't really been out there. So it really might just be as simple as that. He's maybe got to see it in a game. I don't know. But I know what I saw. I believe in it. You don't really have a lot of skill position players. You might need to start handing the ball off. You need to protect Alvin at some point. I mean, there's a lot of ailments there. So I don't know. At some point, you got to start divvying that up a little bit because I don't know how much longer that's going to keep working. So, yeah, I think he's going to get a chance. I think he's actually going to have a role this week. And if he takes advantage of it early, I think he gets a decent amount of carries.
He's been a gamer. He might make Clint Kubiak believe in gamers because it's like every time this guy has gone away for 4 weeks dealing with something and then he comes back, he has a big game, and that was true in the preseason and the regular season last year. So there's something undeniable about him for sure. So that's really interesting. I was wondering if Kubiak is the one even more than DA. Like, at least DA has seen good things from Miller. If Kubiak showed up and his staff and Rick Dennison and they didn't, they were the ones choosing to put Jordan Mims ahead of him way back in OTAs, way before the first day of training camp injury. They've never seen anything from Kendre Miller firsthand. Obviously, they've never seen anything from him. So I wonder how much of that is stubbornnness, how much of that is trying to teach him a lesson, how much is you got to prove it, and how much is genuinely they don't see what they want to see from that guy.
Yeah.
But if he does it in a game, then he might force them to see it.
So we're going to find out. All right. Moving on to our next one. Mickey Loomis went on WWL radio this week and made some comments about Dennis Allen, the state of the team, where they're at. I think we got a graphic here with it. He said the results matter. They do. But one of the things that I think good organizations do is you look beyond the results. What's the reason for the results? And how do you fix the reasons that keep you from winning? It's not always about the head coach. Sometimes it is, but it's not always about that. I'll go first here. You can think all this, and you might even be right. You might have bigger issues that you need to solve in your building, and it might be a trickle-down effect. But when you have lost 4 games in a row, my strong advice would be just cancel the interview. Like, don't go on there. Don't say anything. You are not going to say something that is appeasing. Like, when you've lost 4 games in a row and you're telling people to look beyond the results, that's not a message that's necessarily. If your head coach knows this is what you think, that's the only person that really needs to think it. Like, I don't see the winning from saying this in public. I just don't think it's a good idea to say it out there. But look, you got to win games at some point, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can't drop 4 in a row. A lot of injuries, a lot of stuff, bad draft, all that. But yeah, all those things can be true. And maybe you get everybody healthy and you get to the other side of this and you remind everyone of this is what the team can be when it's healthy and all that. But right now is not the time to go out in the public and say that. Like, I don't want to. I mean, I thought Bobby Hebert did a great job. He asked all the right questions. He put him on the spot. Like, this is the venue to do that. You got him there. You can have like a real conversation about it. It's not like a drive-by comment in a press conference. Like, I thought Bobby did a great job with it. I was just surprised to hear look beyond the results.
These comments are from January, right?
No, it's the same exact thing.
Oh, yeah.
This is who he is.
Exactly what he said.
Yeah, this is who he is.
The only thing I'll disagree on is I always value honesty. I hope whenever you ask someone a question, they tell you exactly what they're thinking. I agree that if you were Mickey Loomis's PR person, you should advise him not to say it. But look, he's telling us exactly what he thinks, and we know that's what he thinks.
Mickey's gonna say and do what he wants. So he's not telling him what to say. I don't think it's a PR person. Like, I think Mickey's just gonna go out and say what he has to say. He's not winning PR, and I assume this was like his pre-scheduled week to be on that show. I don't think he came out to try to diffuse somebody else
unhappiness after a 4-game losing streak. But it's totally look. I'm glad decision makers can look at things with a level head and say, whose fault is it really? And if they really think it's not the head coach, I mean, like we said, he didn't fire Sean Payton after the 2016 season because he's like, if we give him better players, he's a coach we can win with, and they were off and running in 2017. The approach itself is not automatically wrong. But we've always said this about Dennis Allen, and that's he reminds me a lot of Derek Carr, like more of a you can win with him. You're not necessarily winning because of him. I did a quality wins stat last week. He's not going out there and beating the Chiefs or the top teams in the league. He's beating the teams that are worse than the Saints. He hasn't lost the locker room, but he doesn't take the team that's in shambles and rise above it. They lost 4 games right now because of all the circumstances. The one thing, though, that made him special and has made him special is he's an elite defensive coordinator. He's been an elite defensive coordinator. He better get back to being an elite defensive coordinator. He has to have something that this team is hanging its hat on. Otherwise, I do wonder if Mickey Loomis finally changes his tune a little bit after the season. I don't think he's blaming this current 4-game losing streak because there are so many other factors. But I don't think he's going to be stubborn enough. I mean, I think he's going to look at everything, and if a diminished defense becomes part of the factor, I think he's going to look at that too.
He said in there he thinks they have a good team. He said there's a lot of games to be played. Like he's not going to fire him in the season. We already knew that.
Right.
That's never going to happen. There's never going to be a change in the season. This to me tells me he's not even thinking about it. He thinks it's everything else but that. And maybe you wait it out and you end up being right. Maybe you do. My whole thing is just wait it out. Just wait it out, and if you're right at the end, you're right at the end. Like narrating it along the way isn't going to do anything. You aren't calming anyone down. It's just, I think it just makes the situation worse. To be honest, like that's my true opinion.
Fair.
I want him to be honest if he's talking, but I just don't think it does anything to help their situation. I think this makes it worse. To be totally truthful. Man, it feels like we're just in a loop of last year. Like, I feel like we had these same conversations last year. Like, why are they saying things like this? Why are they doing that? It doesn't look right. It doesn't sound right. It doesn't smell right. And it's just kind of right back in the same thing, man. And I can't lie. Like, it's disappointing to be doing like the same analysis all over again. Where for a minute it felt like, wow, they figured this out. And I don't know. I don't know what you can figure out though. Like there is a logical part of this where I like really I don't want to have a conversation with someone that's gonna just dismiss all the offensive line injuries, 2 receivers out. I know everyone thinks Derek Carr sucks, but having your starting quarterback out is a massive issue. It's a massive change for your team. Just dismissing all that, if someone's gonna be like, well, no, okay, like there's a certain point where it's like it's too much, and that's fair, but it's the defense component of it to me. If your defense is playing good and your offense is doing what it's doing, I could sit here and say like, all right, like
what can he do about that?
Yeah, right. But I don't feel like they gave, like my story after the game was, there's all these injuries, but this didn't feel like it was about that. It felt like it was about something else, and it was the defense not giving them a chance to win. They gave up 44 points on defense. You can't do that when you have a starter there. Like they're supposed to be the ones that say, all right, Spence, like just don't make mistakes. We got you.
Yeah.
And that isn't what happened. It was, we're going to make all the mistakes and you save us and throw the ball 40 times. And it can't stack up like that. If that's one bad day, cool. One bad day, get it right on Thursday night, give them a fighting chance. And then we can talk about all these guys on the offensive side of the ball being out, but you got to give them the fighting chance first.
Mickey Loomis's comments are totally fair about the decision he made after last season. But if the season continues to look anything like what we saw in Week 6 against Tampa Bay, those comments could be tossed.
Yeah. All right, moving on to the next one presented by Shea Bear Insurance, the Earhart Agency. Thursday night, Broncos Saints. What
Name 6 players playing in this game.
What matchups matter the absolute most? It's a tough one, man. I mean, they got a good safety, Brandon Jones. He's playing good football right now. They got a good linebacker, Justin. I can't say his last name. Strad, I think it is. They got a decent edge rusher, Jonathan Cooper. He's looking okay so far this year. Their corners are obviously both really good, Riley Moss and Surtain. Surtain might not play. So, I mean, For me, it's really the Saints offense versus this defense. If they can figure out a way to just score some points, I think it's going to be hard for them. There's a lot of stuff to solve here. It's the DC versus the rookie QB is a huge matchup in this game for me.
The DC versus the rookie QB. Which DC and which rookie QB?
Well, I mean, against Rattler more so, than anything for me. Just kind of going against this banged up group. Can they do anything? Are they going to blitz the hell out of them? Can they block this week? They couldn't last week. It's a big battle. Obviously, flip it the other side. They're gonna have to pick the ball off again. I mean, you're really gonna have to confuse Bo Nix. You're gonna have to find a way to get the ball away from him. Try to set some stuff up, and just give Rattler as many chances as he can to make something happen with this group of players.
Yeah, it's the whole defense. You didn't even mention Zach Allen, who I think is a good interior defensive lineman, and the Broncos, like we said, they're number 2 in the NFL in blitzes this year. They're number 2 in the NFL in sacks this year. They've got interior pressure. They bring interior pressure, and that has been the demise of the Saints in their 2 worst performances on offense this year is against Chris Jones, against Jalen Carter. I don't think Zach Allen's in that category, but that's somebody that they're going to have to go into war against with Nick Saldiveri, Landon Young, and Connor McGovern again, or a injury sort of hampered Lucas Patrick if he works his way back into that mix. So I hate that matchup for him. The Broncos. I was looking at like an NFL Network Top 100 list. They had 2 players in the NFL Network Top 100, and one of them was Justin Simmons, who they traded away this year. There's not a lot of blue chip players. Their run game's been a disappointment. Their receiving game's been a disappointment. They're 29th in the league in yards per game. I forgot to mention Adam Troutman is starting ahead of Lucas Kroll, former Saints at tight end. Their offensive lineman has been pretty offensive line's been pretty disappointing in terms of giving up pressures this year. Although Bo Nix has only been sacked 9 times, he really gets out of the pocket and keeps things alive on his own. There's some kind of parallels with Rattler there, but the matchup is not why the Saints can't win this game. Absolutely not. It's the Saints' own diminished roster more than anything else, but they're not, talent versus talent. The Saints aren't in huge trouble in a talent versus talent stack.
How do you feel about the Sean Payton component of this?
I'm really disappointed that we're not seeing these 2 guys go against each other at full strength, because I bet Dennis Allen has been thinking about how he wanted to approach this game since before last season, since this offseason, how he's going to stop Peyton. And now he comes into this game 5 days after his defense just gave up 600 yards. That's disappointing to me. Like I wanted it to be a chess match, and I wanted it to not to be about the pieces. But you have to give Sean Payton the edge there, right? You have to. The psychological edge, I've come up with something that you haven't seen before, and I'm going to get you with it edge. 4 weeks ago, I would have thought Dennis Allen was going to have the edge, but when you take away his pieces, and when we've seen him not come up with answers recently, I think Cam Jordan nailed it perfectly. I think Sean Payton's going to smell blood in the water and try to attack it. What about you?
He's still got his guys on defense, though. Like I don't know that he's super hampered on that side of the ball. I think he's gonna. I mean, it's Bo Nix, man. Like I think he's gonna shut him down. I do. I think they're gonna. But are you gonna score enough points to overcome whatever? I think they're gonna play good on defense. I'm not really worried about that part. This feels like a game that he typically wins. I don't think the emotions are going to be too high or too anything for that. I mean, I'm sure Sean's going to have a good plan, and I'm sure DA's probably going to have a good plan too. It's a short week, though, so you kind of got to – there's only so much you can really do within that. But I think they're going to be okay on that part. It's the flip.
Yeah.
Like, I think –
Vance Joseph versus –
Yeah, it's the flip that kind of worries me more about this game. And I don't know how you can feel good about that offense overall. Like, I just don't know how you can look at it and say they're going to score points. They could, like, they looked good for a half last week, but I just don't know. I don't know. It just feels like too much at a certain point, and there's just too many guys missing. And now you don't even have Shaheed. Like, you had at least had Shaheed last week. Like, you don't even have him this week. Like, I just don't see. I don't see how you overcome it at all. But it'll be interesting to see him back out there. People forget that Miami lost the first round pick because he tried to leave directly to there. It really wasn't about taking a year off. So, anyways, moving on to the Martin's question of the day. Martin, so much more than just wine. The question this week is, based on current timelines, should this team be relatively healthy again, and will it be too late? I'll give a couple. I think Caesar's probably back on the other side of this. I think there's a chance of it. I think Taysom's probably back on the other side of this. Chris Olave should be back on the other side of this. So there's kind of three big ones. I'm not really sure on the Derek Carr timeline. It feels like he should be kind of getting close by Chargers. I think there'll probably be a will he or won't he, but I would probably guess maybe the one on the other side of that. But you never know. Which
is at Carolina. He's a very manageable game.
He's a tough guy. Like I'm sure he's going to try to come back earlier than he should. So we'll see on that one. Who else are the other big injuries? Those are the ones that I feel like I kind of got a little bit
Eric
of info
McCoy,
on.
Rashid Shaheed.
I think Shaheed's going to be out 3 or 4 weeks.
Okay. Pete Werner should be back soon. He's another one they could have back soon. I mean, they could be relatively healthy at Los Angeles in week 8. They really could. At Carolina in week 9. I mean, what's amazing is there is still a path to winning 2 of the next 3 games. This schedule is so easy. Then it's versus Atlanta at home, versus Cleveland at home bye week, and then versus Rams at home, then at Giants. Like there is nothing that should derail this season if the Saints don't derail it themselves, and if they get a little healthier. What is McCoy's timetable? Week 12 bye after that is possible, or December 1st is their next game?
I think so. I think that's kind of what it was. Yeah, I mean, the insane thing here is, and I know everybody's like too pissed off to really hear anything. If they find a way to win on Thursday night, it's like not necessarily completely over at that point.
Right.
If you claw your way back to 500, I don't know.
They could get to 3-4. Split the road games at Los Angeles and Carolina, you're 4-5. Split the home games, Atlanta and Cleveland, you're 5-6 going into the bye week. I mean, that's what they have to do for it not to be too late. To answer the second part of that question, is it too late? It's too late if they get to 2-6, 3-7. Like if they get, there is a too late point looming. So they need to survive. That's why it's.
I think the too late point's looming tomorrow night. Like you lose that game. Like I don't know how you get back. You could. I mean, you could because you could.
In theory, be 5-6 going into the bye, but this is one of the ones that you need to win 3. You need to win 3 out of 5 games to get to 5-6. This is one you don't want to.
When I had them winning 9 games or whatever, like I'm pretty sure I probably would have had them 3-4 coming out of this Denver game. Yeah. It's just how it's
how it's happening.
It's how it's happened. It's a disaster. Like you could sit here and like stack up the numbers or whatever. Losing 4 in a row, losing your whole team, kind of being where you're at, having your defense not playing well. It's the worst possible mashup of this. Something needs to be studied about the way this guy is able to get his team to start every year and why they can't keep it going. Like they come out starting, like whatever he's doing in camp, he's doing better than everybody because his teams come out and win these first couple games and then like nothing happens after that. It's crazy. And this year's like the greatest example of it, but whatever he's doing, like he's doing a great job preparing them in camp.
I don't agree with your narrative because his first year was 2022. And
but they're winning.
No, they played like absolute dog crap at Atlanta and had one lucky quarter, and then they lost their next 3 games. The 2022 Saints came out terrible.
I don't give a damn. They win those games like
they won 1. They started 1-3. That's not a good start.
What was it last year?
2-2. They beat the Titans 16-15 and the Panthers 20-17.
But they win. Like they start good. They know how to win at the beginning.
Gave it to
they
them
know how to
year.
win at the beginning of the season, and then they can't. They just can't after that. Like they know what they're doing. He gets them ready this year more than ever.
I look beyond the results, Nick.
Yeah, well, I need to see the wins. If you're winning the first 2 every year, you're doing something right.
He's definitely been a good December coach. I'll give him that.
Well, I mean, September and December, it doesn't work. You got to get that. You got to figure out mid-September. You got to figure out October.
Here's an interesting thing that Kevin and I discussed in another hotly contested members-only podcast. It's funny, though, the Rattler Carr decision. I believe you should go back to Derek Carr if you're trying to win the division this year. But the funny thing is, let's say things don't go well for the next couple weeks and they're 2-6. Then there's an argument for just sticking with Rattler because the season's lost. let's say things go well and Spencer Rattler leads them to wins over Denver and the Chargers, and now they're 4-4. Then there's an argument for keeping Rattler because they're winning with him. What is the actual path that gets Derek Carr back on the field?
I'm going to look at the results. I mean, I think if they're like, yeah, I mean, I think it just really depends on what it looks like. If you're kind of like sputtering by and you're staying alive and you're barely winning, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But,
which is probably the most likely of the three scenarios.
But that's what Tom Brady did in 03.
Yeah.
I mean, or 01. So I don't know.
Funny.
And then Bledsoe got back in the playoffs, won a playoff game, and they went back to Brady.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know what it actually is.
It's crazy. I mean, I think Derek Carr's coming back. I think Derek Carr should come back. But then when I actually like try to map it out, the one thing is, since it's an oblique injury, I think if Spencer Rattler can win a couple of games, it definitely buys you time to make sure Carr doesn't come back too early.
I think the actual answer here is, like, if you're keeping your season alive and you can look at it and you're saying they're winning in spite of the quarterback, I think that's where you're like, all right, please get Derek back in here as quick as possible. If it's anything else, and he's like, or if he just looks like an absolute disaster, and you just know, and you're not giving your team a chance by putting him out there, and you are 2-6, 2-7, and I don't think
he'll do that.
I don't think there's a scenario where he looks like an absolute disaster. But just in theory, like, if it looked like an absolute disaster, you get him out of there. But there's a lot of paths where, like, it could be like, this could be interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see. That's going to do it for this episode. We'll have all your coverage of the game. Make sure you're checking us out for the pregame show. If you want to sign up for the site, sign up for the site. We'll have the next show is going to be Friday morning. We're not going to go live immediately after the game. We're going to go live Friday brunch, I guess is how you could put it. For everybody else, that's the end of the show. For the members, keep it locked right here. We're going to keep rolling into overtime.